The sun had barely risen when Mariana woke up with a start. Her cell phone was vibrating insistently on the nightstand, the screen flashing with an urgency she knew all too well. Her eyes, still heavy with sleep, focused on the digital clock, 5:47. Sighing, she slid her finger across the screen, unlocking the device. "Detective Silva, we have a critical situation. I need you at the station in 30 minutes. The message, short and direct, was from Chief Rodriguez. Mariana didn't need more details to know that her day would be long. She got up, feeling the cold of the wooden floor under her bare feet. As she headed to the bathroom, her mind was already at work, anticipating the possibilities of what could be so urgent to get her out of bed before dawn. The shower turned on, and hot water began to fall on her tense shoulders. Mariana closed her eyes, allowing herself a brief moment of relaxation before diving headfirst into another case. As an investigator in the cybercrime unit, she was used to dealing with the dark side of the internet. Fraud, extortion, data theft. The digital underworld had no time to sleep, and apparently, neither did she. 25 minutes later, Mariana entered the police station, her hair still damp, tied in an improvised ponytail. The coffee in her hand trembled slightly, betraying the haste with which it had been prepared and consumed. The typical buzz of the station was already in full swing, even at that early hour. She crossed the maze of desks and computers, nodding briefly to colleagues who were already at their posts. "Silva here." Chief Rodriguez's deep voice called her from a meeting room. Mariana entered, immediately noticing the tension in the air. Besides the chief, there were 3 other people in the room. 2 agents she recognized from the technology team and a woman she had never seen before. "This is Mrs. Oliveira." Rodriguez made the introductions quickly. She just discovered that all her bank accounts were emptied. Overnight, we're talking about almost 2 million reais. Mariana felt her stomach sink. Cases like this were becoming more common, but the magnitude of this one was alarming. She turned to Mrs. Oliveira, a middle-aged woman with red and swollen eyes of someone who clearly hadn't slept. "Mrs. Oliveira, I'm sorry for what you're going through. Can you tell me exactly what happened?" The woman took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she held a glass of water. I woke up in the middle of the night with my phone beeping. They were bank notifications. When I looked, I saw several transfers being made. I tried to access my account, but my password didn't work. I called the bank immediately, but it was too late." Mariana nodded, her brain already processing the information. "And you didn't authorize any of these transfers, correct?" "Of course not," Mrs. Oliveira exclaimed, her voice choked. That money was my whole life, my retirement, my children's inheritance." "I understand," Mariana said softly, trying to calm the woman. She turned to the technology agents. "What do we know so far?" One of the agents, a young man with glasses who barely looked out of college, cleared his throat before speaking. "The transfers were made to several different accounts, all recently opened in digital banks. The money was moved almost instantly afterwards, jumping from account to account. We're trying to track it, but they're good." Mariana completed, knowing the modus operandi well. "We're dealing with professionals," Chief Rodriguez intervened. "Silva, you know this case better than anyone. It's the same group we've been chasing for the last few months, isn't it?" Mariana felt a shiver run down her spine. She had been pursuing a group of hackers specializing in digital identity theft for almost a year. They were like ghosts, always one step ahead, leaving a trail of empty accounts and destroyed lives wherever they went. "Yes, it has all their characteristics," she confirmed, the frustration evident in her voice. "But this time, they made a mistake. They've never attacked such a large account before. This will draw attention." "That's why you're here," Rodriguez said, his expression serious. "We need to catch these criminals, and we need to do it today, before they disappear again." Mariana nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She turned again to Mrs. Oliveira, who was now sobbing silently. "Ma'am, I know it's difficult, but I need you to tell me everything about your last 24 hours. Anything out of the ordinary, no matter how small. A strange email, a suspicious call, someone who has approached you recently." Mrs. Oliveira frowned, trying to concentrate. I don't know. Everything seemed normal. Yesterday afternoon I received an email from the bank asking me to update my data, but that's common, isn't it? Mariana exchanged a quick look with the technology agents. That's probably how it started. A sophisticated phishing email. Mrs. Oliveira, did you click on any link in that email? I think so, the woman replied, the understanding of the error beginning to form in her eyes. Oh my God, was that it? Was that how they got in? Mariana gently held the woman's hand. Don't blame yourself. These criminals are extremely skilled. They make emails that look identical to official ones. Even security professionals sometimes fall for these traps. Turning to the team, Mariana began to give orders. I need that email, track the origin server, analyze the code, find any clue that can lead us to them, and I want a full report of all transfers made. Let's follow the money. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Mariana dove headfirst into the investigation, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she scoured databases, cross-referenced information, and followed tenuous digital trails. The coffee cooled beside her, forgotten as she focused on the screen in front of her. Around noon, one of the technology agents approached, his face lit up with the excitement of someone who had just made a discovery. Detective Silva, I think we found something. Mariana looked up, hopeful. What do you have? The server used to send the phishing email. We managed to trace it to an internet provider in Copacabana. It's a residential address. Mariana's heart raced. It was the first concrete lead they had in months. Great work. Prepare a team. We're going to pay a surprise visit. Half an hour later, Mariana was in a police car, crossing the streets of Rio de Janeiro towards Copacabana. Beside her, Chief Rodriguez looked tense, his fingers drumming impatiently on the steering wheel. Do you think we finally got them, Silva? He asked, without taking his eyes off the road. Mariana hesitated before answering. I don't want to create false hopes, Chief. These guys are smart. We're probably going to a fake address or a front, but it's the best lead we have so far. The car stopped in front of an old but well-maintained building, typical of the area. Mariana felt the adrenaline start to run through her veins as she prepared for the approach. She checked her gun, more out of habit than believing she would need to use it. Cybercrime rarely involved physical confrontations. With a nod from Chief Rodriguez, the team moved. They silently climbed the stairs to the third floor, positioning themselves in front of apartment 302. Mariana exchanged a quick look with Rodriguez before knocking on the door. Federal police, open the door. The silence that followed was deafening. Mariana could hear her own heart beating. After what seemed like an eternity, there was a sound of keys, and the door opened slowly. The man who appeared made Mariana freeze in place. She knew that face. She knew it very well. Carlos? She whispered, incredulous. The man in front of her was Carlos Mendez, her ex-boyfriend and current security analyst at a large technology company. They had broken up almost a year ago, but maintained a cordial relationship, often exchanging messages about work and personal life. Mari, what's going on? Carlos asked, his face a mixture of confusion and fear. Mariana felt the world spin around her. Her mind refused to process what her eyes were seeing. Carlos, the man she had known for years, with whom she had shared so many moments, couldn't be the criminal she had been chasing. Carlos Mendez, Chief Rodriguez's voice sounded firm beside her. We're investigating a cybercrime case. We need to ask you some questions. Carlos visibly paled, his eyes darting from Mariana to Rodriguez and back. I don't understand. What is this about? Mariana finally found her voice. Carlos, can we come in? It's better if we talk inside. Hesitantly, Carlos stepped aside, allowing the team to enter the apartment. Mariana observed the environment, her investigator's eyes automatically registering every detail. The place was simple, but organized. A desk in the corner of the room caught her attention. On it, 3 monitors displayed complex lines of code and graphs. "Carlos," Mariana began, struggling to keep her voice professional. "We're investigating a group responsible for digital identity theft and emptying bank accounts. The latest attack was traced to this address." Carlos's face went from pale to intense red. "What? This is absurd. I work in digital security, Mari. You know that." "Exactly why we need to understand what's going on," Rodriguez intervened. "Mr. Mendez, do you have any explanation for why a cyber attack originated from this address?" Carlos ran his hand through his hair, a gesture Mariana knew well. It was what he did when he was nervous or thinking intensely. I don't know. My work involves simulating attacks to test system security. Maybe someone hacked my own network." Mariana wanted to believe him. Every fiber of her being screamed that Carlos couldn't be guilty. But years of experience as an investigator made her hesitate. How many times had she seen criminals with familiar faces and convincing stories? "We need to check your computers, Carlos," she said softly. "Do you allow it?" Carlos hesitated for a moment, his eyes meeting Mariana's. She saw fear there, but also something else. Resignation, guilt. "Of course," he finally responded. "I have nothing to hide." The next few minutes were tense. The technology agents pored over Carlos's computers, searching files and analyzing logs. Mariana watched, her heart torn between professional duty and a personal loyalty she couldn't completely ignore. "Detective Silva," one of the agents called, his voice betraying a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "I think we found something." Mariana approached, feeling Carlos tense beside her. On the screen, a series of encrypted files appeared, along with what seemed to be sophisticated routing software. This appears to be part of the infrastructure used in the attacks we've been investigating," the agent explained. "It's very similar to what we've seen in previous cases." Mariana felt as if the ground had been pulled out from under her feet. She turned slowly to Carlos, searching his eyes for some sign that all of this was a terrible misunderstanding. "Carlos," she began, her voice almost a whisper, "please tell me there's an explanation for this." The silence that followed was deafening. Carlos lowered his head, avoiding Mariana's gaze. When he finally spoke, his voice was laden with emotion. "Marie, I can explain." At that moment, Mariana felt her world crumble. The realization of what was happening hit her like a punch to the stomach. Carlos, the man she had known for years, whom she trusted, was the leader of the criminal group she had been relentlessly pursuing. "Why?" she asked, her voice betraying the pain and confusion she felt. "How could you do this?" Carlos raised his eyes, and Mariana saw in them a mixture of regret and defiance. "You don't understand, Mari. The system is broken. Big corporations, banks, they steal from people every day in much more subtle and legal ways. I'm just leveling the playing field." Mariana shook her head, incredulous. "Leveling the playing field? Carlos, you destroyed lives. People lost everything they had. And how many lives are destroyed every day by this corrupt financial system?" Carlos retorted, his voice rising. "I use the money I take to help people, Mari, to fund projects that really make a difference." Chief Rodriguez, who had been silently observing the scene until then, stepped forward. "Mr. Mendez, regardless of your motivations, what you did is a crime. You're under arrest." As Rodriguez recited Carlos's rights, Mariana watched, feeling strangely disconnected from the scene. Part of her wanted to scream, demand more explanations, understand how the man she thought she knew so well could have become this. Another part wanted to simply run away, escape this reality that had turned her world upside down. "Mari," Carlos called softly as he was being handcuffed. "I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." Mariana met his gaze one last time. "But you did hurt Carlos. Not just me, but all the people you stole from. And now you'll have to face the consequences." As Carlos was led out of the apartment, Mariana remained standing, trying to process everything that had happened. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, reminding her that the world out there continued to spin, oblivious to the personal earthquake she had just experienced. It was a message from the station. "Detective Silva, new urgent case. Possible large-scale data breach. Return as soon as possible." Mariana looked at the screen, feeling the weight of her responsibility. The day that had begun so unexpectedly was not over yet. There was more work to be done, more crimes to be solved, more lives to be protected. With one last look at the apartment that held so many painful revelations, Mariana straightened her shoulders and left. The digital world didn't stop, and neither could she. But as she walked to the street where the afternoon sun was already starting to lean towards the horizon, she wondered how many more secrets, how many more Carlos were hidden in the infinite labyrinths of the internet, waiting to be discovered. The journey back to the police station was a blur for Mariana. The streets of Rio passed by the car window like a fast-motion film, but her mind was far away, reliving every moment of the day, every interaction she had with Carlos over the years, looking for signs she might have missed. When she finally arrived at the station, the typical buzz of the place seemed distant, as if she was hearing everything through a glass wall. Colleagues passed by her, some casting curious glances, others trying to get her attention for ongoing cases. But Mariana went straight ahead, her mind focused on a single task. She sat down in front of her computer, her fingers hovering over the keyboard for a moment before she started typing furiously. She accessed databases, cross-referenced information, revisited old cases. Each click, each line of code that appeared on the screen seemed to lead to more questions than answers. Hours passed without her noticing. The sun had long since set when Chief Rodriguez appeared by her side, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Silva," he said softly, "you need to go home. Get some rest." Mariana looked at him, her eyes red from fatigue and contained emotion. "Chief, I can't. I need to understand. How didn't we see this before? How didn't I see it?" Rodriguez sighed, pulling up a chair to sit beside her. "Mariana, you're one of the best investigators I've ever had, but sometimes we're so close that we can't see the big picture." "But that's my job," she retorted, the frustration evident in her voice. "I should have seen the signs, and now you see." "Do them," Rodriguez responded calmly. "Use this, learn from it, but don't blame yourself. Carlos made his choices, and now he'll have to face the consequences." Mariana nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the day finally fall on her shoulders. "What happens now, Chief?" "Now you go home to rest," he repeated, more firmly this time. "Tomorrow we start dismantling the network Carlos built. We have a lot of work ahead of us." Reluctantly, Mariana stood up. She knew Rodriguez was right, that she needed time to process everything that had happened. But the idea of returning to an empty apartment where her thoughts would be her only company scared her more than she would like to admit. "Chief," she called when she was already at the door. "Thank you for everything." Rodriguez nodded, a small smile on his lips. "It's going to be okay, Silva. You're strong. You'll get through this." The way home was a test of willpower. Every corner, every familiar street seemed to contain a memory of Carlos. There was the cafe where they used to have breakfast on weekends. Further ahead, the cinema where they watched so many movies together. Memories that now seemed tainted, contaminated by the day's revelation. When she finally got home, Mariana allowed herself to collapse. The tears she had held back all day finally came, a silent cry that shook her body. She cried for the betrayal, for the lost trust, for the victims of Carlos's crimes, and for herself, for not seeing what was right in front of her eyes. After what seemed like an eternity, Mariana got up from the couch where she had curled up. Her eyes fell on a framed photo on the shelf. Her and Carlos, smiling, on a trip they took 2 years ago. With a decisive movement, she turned the photo face down. Walking to the window, Mariana observed the city that never slept. Out there, millions of lives went on, oblivious to the drama unfolding in her small apartment. How many secrets, how many hidden stories existed behind each lit window she saw. The digital world she investigated daily was a reflection of this physical world, full of shadows, secrets, and surprises. Each bit of information, each digital trace, could contain a story, a hidden truth, waiting to be discovered. Mariana knew that the next day would bring new challenges. There would be interrogations, deeper investigations, an entire network of criminals to dismantle. And somewhere in the midst of all this, she would have to find a way to deal with the pain of betrayal, to rebuild her trust not only in others, but in herself and her abilities. But for now, on this silent night, she allowed herself to be just Mariana, not the detective, not the tireless investigator, but a woman facing one of the most difficult nights of her life. As the clock marked the first hours of the new day, Mariana finally headed to her bedroom. Tomorrow would be another day, with new challenges and perhaps new revelations. But one thing she knew for sure: in the vast, digital ocean, where secrets and lies floated like treacherous icebergs, she would continue navigating, seeking the truth, no matter how painful it might be. And so, with the distant sound of the city in the background, and the soft glow of the computer screen in the corner of the room, reminding her of the world to which she belonged, Mariana closed her eyes, letting sleep finally take her. Tomorrow would be another day in the world of digital traces, and she would be ready to face it, no matter what it brought.